Welcome back to On Texas Basketball. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Gerry Hamilton. Going to break down everything that's been going on with Sean Miller, recruiting on the road, a little bit of portal recap. This episode of On Texas Basketball brought to you by Advanced Pain Care. We'll have a message from our friends at Advanced Pain Care here later in the show. Gerry, we haven't done one of these since the combo of Simeon Wilcher committing and Jamie Vincent going in the portal. So as you look at this Texas roster now, with things quieted down, the dust has settled on the portal window, what are your thoughts on the Texas roster as it stands?
Look, I think the addition of Simeon Wilcher was actually really big for Texas. And you know, it goes beyond stats for me with Simeon Wilcher, because he's a guy that even Rick Pitino during the season said, we want him to shoot it more. He's a really good shooter. So I think when he transferred, the news came out that he was transferring, people said, well, he shot 29.7% from the three. He didn't really have a good year. Well, he still started 25 games on the Big East champs and number 2 seed in the tournament. I think he's a better three-point shooter than that. I think he's going to end up being a 35, 36% three-point shooter at Texas. The other thing with him is he's a 2-year player. Mm-hmm. He's got 2 years left to play. He's played 2 in college basketball. He's got 2 years left to play, and he's got size. He's got the size as a combo guard they're looking for at 6'4". He's athletic. He can play up and down. He can create off the dribble. He's got to defend without fouling. I think that's a big thing for him defensively. But I like where this roster's at. I know we'll talk about Vincent and his transfer out in a second, but I like where this roster is at. If you look at Trevon Mark, he has Final Four experience. Simeon Wilcher, NCAA experience. Jordan Pope, NCAA tournament experience. Kendall Weaver, NCAA tournament experience. Cam Heide, Final Four experience. Dalen Swain, NCAA tournament experience. So they have enough experience, especially at guard this year, in year one under Sean Miller. But then I like how many multiple year players they've put together on this roster. Now, Dalen Swain could have a great year and really ascend in year 3. He's already been mocked in the first round of the 26 NBA drafts. And if that happens, Texas probably had a really good year on the court. Mm-hmm. Same thing if a Simeon Wilcher made some big jump. But Matas, the center from FAU, is going to be a multi-year player, was the AAC freshman of the year, brings a 7-footer, 6'11 and a half to the program, who's a physical player, plays really hard. Lassina Traore just got to stay healthy. He was going to be a starter for Xavier and a guy that they were really excited about, and they think that injury cost them going to the Sweet 16 in Sean Miller's final year at Xavier. He's a rebounder, post defender with size, with length. I really like what they've done. I like Nick Cody. Nick Cody, we can get into, Jeff, because they have their hands on these guys for some workouts. Nick Cody's been very impressive so far. They feel like there's a lot they can unlock with Nick Cody. Then John Clark coming in, who grew up playing for and training with TJ Ford over at TJ Ford Academy, 6'8 and a half, about 225, skilled power forward. They have those 2 young pieces that go with the 2 centers in the versatility with Swain and Cameron Heide. I like the talent, the roster they've put together. Now, I want to say this. It's not complete, and I know we'll get into that, but I think there's 2 spots left that they'll fill that could be contributors on some level to this team. But the bulk of the work with the roster is done. And I think Gary Parrish from CBS has him number 20 in his way too early top 25. ESPN has him in the top 25. They're going to appear in there. They've put together a good roster. Now I'm really looking to see what they're going to do with that last guard spot. And I think it's going to be they're looking around the globe.
Gerry, let's look at the Jamie Vincent transfer. That's a 6'10 forward who we saw a little bit of this past season, but he's gone. Signed with Texas A&M. But when you look at this front court, you just broke it down. You've got Nick Cody, who's now more than a year removed from his knee injury he suffered as a high school senior. You've got John Clark recovered from his thumb injury, Lassina Traore coming off the injury, and then Matas Vukatitis, like you said, AAC freshman of the year. Gerry, just some health question marks with this group, but overall, the Nick Cody news is encouraging because, like you said, last February was when he had the knee injury in his senior season. Yeah. Didn't know how effective he was going to be this year. I think the fact that he just got on the court was a plus, but should be a much more effective player for Sean Miller than he was for Rodney Terry.
And he's not an isolation guy, right? So it wasn't a good offensive fit for him. He's going to play better in more of a movement-based offense where it's cutting and reading. He's going to be a face-up player, but he's a really skilled kid, and he should make a big jump from year 1 to year 2 in college basketball. That's when most guys they absolutely do that. So, look, I think when it came down to it for Texas, once they decided, yep, John Clark is a really good player, because they had scouted him in high school, but they knew, Sean Miller and those guys knew they weren't going to get him. But then, they obviously talked with TJ, all those sort of things happened, and they knew John Clark was a guy that they really wanted to program. Then the reality was Nick Cody, Jamie Vincent, John Clark were all three guys going to stay.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really going to happen there, because all three of those guys would come in with expectations to play next year. And the reality is one of those guys wasn't. And Jamie Vincent's got talent. I think his motor, for A&M fans that may watch just one of you, his motor is going to have to get more consistent. And we felt like giving A&M a player since the Directors Cup and the Lone Star Showdown were over. But I think Jamie Vincent's a guy that's got some upside, but it's going to be consistency of his motor is going to be the key for him, because he can shoot it. He's skilled. He can protect the rim, but it's got to be consistency and motor for him. And I think Texas will replace that spot on the roster with somebody that maybe doesn't have expectations to play this year necessarily and is in more of a developmental mode year one in the program.
Jerry, you just teased it. This roster it's pretty filled out, but it's not complete. What else is out there for Sean Miller and company?
Yeah, so I think there's another combo guard or guard spot out there. So right now you have Tremont Mark, Simeon Wilcher, Jordan Pope as combo guards. Kendall Weaver's as an off-the-ball player. I think there's one more guard spot out there, and I think Texas is looking around the globe. They've been in contact with a guard out of France who's a really good player. That doesn't mean they're going to absolutely try to bring him in. There's 2 or 3 other international kids. There's one that's really good. He's in the NBA draft entry, but we'll see what happens there. If he pulls his name out of the draft, then he's a guy that a lot of people are going to want if they have spots left on their roster. Texas may be one of the few that still does. But they're looking around the globe. That could also be a high school developmental guy that maybe wouldn't have as big of a role. So I think they're looking at all their options. And I'm not sure they have 3 scholarships technically. I'm not sure they're going to use all 3. I think they'll for sure use 2. And I think the guard, whatever guard they bring in at the end, will be a guy that helps the team next year. I think the big could be more of a developmental player if the current bigs stay healthy. Then you have that 13th spot. Could they take a high school kid and say, man, we're just going to bring you in like they did, like Rodney Terrington did with Devin Pryor, and say, we're going to bring you in, we're going to redshirt you, we're going to develop you. If you're up for that, then we have interest in you. I think there's very few that will be up for that, but maybe you find a fit. So that's why I'm not convinced they're going to use that 13th scholarship spot. I think they're going to use 12 for sure.
Yeah, just in case anybody's trying to do the math, they do have 10 spots currently filled, 13 scholarships. Malik Presley entered the portal on April 12th, right? April 12th, April 13th. Yep. So that's where that other spot comes from to fill out the roster for a full 13. But like Jerry said, it's probably maybe you don't need a 13th guy. You could probably just get away with 12, maybe 13 if it's the right 3 to finish it up. Jerry, let's get to the recruiting trail. And as we sit here recording this, Sean Miller, he was at Melissa this morning, and Trevor Gooseby met with the media recently during spring practice, and he, as I guess in a way that might not get anybody in trouble, stumped for his brother to join him at Texas publicly. But there's no question, Jerry, Austin Gooseby is a big-time target for this basketball staff.
Yeah, for the Texas fans that don't keep up with the basketball recruiting calendar as much, Sean Miller's already made 2 trips to Melissa High. Okay, he is leaving no doubt for the Gooseby family that Austin Gooseby, who you're looking at here with Sean Miller and Uric Malagy, assistant, who came back to Texas, that Austin Gooseby is priority number 1. The 6'5.5" combo guard out of Melissa High, obviously younger brother of Trevor Gooseby, a guy that has BYU all in on him, Kansas all in on him, SMU all in on him, Alabama saying they're going to offer, and Duke may offer in this first live period, which is mid-May. I think Texas is the favorite. Does that mean they're going to win it? They got work to do. But Sean Miller, he is a hustler on the recruiting trail now, and he is out-seeing these guys right now. His assistants are out, some with him at times, some making other stops. I mean, look, there's been stops for a number of guys here. Texas has offered 10 prospects in 2026. And I think Austin Gooseby, Bo Ogden, and they've met with these guys, Gooseby, Ogden, Dakari Spear at the Colony. Those are your 3 in-state guys to know. Davion Atkins and Billy White have also been offered. We'll see what happens with those guys. Out of state, they offered 5-star point guard out of New York, Dylan Mingo. Recently, they offered Anthony Thomas, a top 35 kid in the country, small forward out of Ohio, where Dalen Swain's from, where Sean Miller was coaching. And then Theo Ratliff's son, Adonis Ratliff and Darius Ratliff, along with Christian Collins, a top 5 prospect in the country out of St. John Bosco. They're out. They're zigzagging the country ahead of the live period in mid-May for their one evaluation period for this 26 and 27 class. They've also been out to see 27 prospects. They went to see Dawson Batee, who I think is a stud. They're going to get out to see Marcus Spears, right? Ryan Hampton, Avery Houston. They've been by to see Reese Alston. They're going to take a look at a few other 2027s as well here when the live period starts. But Sean Miller, the one thing he is doing right out of the gate at Texas, in-state recruiting, he is letting Austin Gooseby know, we got to have you at Texas. We want you at Texas. We got to have you at Texas. This is recruitment. We got to figure out a way to win. And that's all you can ask of your head coach in the first. After they put the roster together, they immediately hit the road. This guy's all about business. He took this job. I said it he took this job as a very motivated coach that has been to 4 Elite Eights and wants to get past that. And he's working, and his staff is working like a staff that it really wants to get that accomplished down the line.
All right, we'll wrap this up on the other side, but before we do that, here's a message from today's sponsor of On Texas Basketball, Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Jerry, whenever you add a new coach in college basketball, roster building, I think, is the key thing that's top of mind, because that's kind of what it's all about. Do you like the way Sean Miller's going about it? And I know year one, you're kind of doing it on the fly, but when you look at the grassroots effort that they're making for recruits in 26 and 27, do you like the way they're going about it for the future?
I do. I do, because look, now he got to Texas. A lot of this is timing for these coaches. Imagine getting hired at Texas and you look at the 2026 recruiting board, and one of them is Trevor Gooseby's brother, who may be a McDonald's All-American, a future NBA player, and another one is Chris Ogden's son.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're starting from a decent spot there, right? It doesn't mean you're going to get both those guys, but you're starting from a decent spot. But what I like is the out-of-state recruiting. I mean, look, the in-state prospects are tremendous in the state of Texas. 26, those guys we mentioned, Dakari Spear, a third guy who I think is really a high-level kid. And then there's some other guys you got to watch, Billy White, Davion Atkins, and some other guys as well in that. But 27 is shaping up to be a big, big year in Texas. Marcus Spears Jr., sister plays volleyball at Texas. She's having a great time at Texas. So a lot of this stuff is timing, man. It's Jermaine O'Neal runs Drive Nation AAU, right? It doesn't mean he's going to push a kid to Texas. But, hey, if anybody asks about Texas, his daughter had an unbelievable experience at Texas.
Absolutely.
So Sean Miller's getting to Texas at a very interesting time, and that there's some dominoes that could just naturally, with hard work, fall their way, of some of the top high school prospects in this state that are also some of the top prospects in the country. That doesn't mean you're going to get them. But I think that the thing with Sean Miller, too, is they're recruiting internationally. I've been for this for years. This is why I was really excited about the hire, because I knew they would. And, even if you don't sign an international player in this year one, they're going to sign international players. They're recruiting them. They're having multiple discussions with guys and the agents of these guys and the leagues. Matas is not obviously is an international player that came to FAU first. Lucina Traore, same thing. So you're seeing elements are already on this roster under Sean Miller. I really like what they're doing. I like their plan. Obviously, no team is perfect. Very rarely does you have a Dan Hurley UConn team that's almost like you couldn't find a weakness in it, especially in year one. I think if that next guard they get, if he shoots it at a high level, might be helpful in case of, even if he's not a big minute player, in case of some off nights, right, by guys. But they've addressed the size issue. They've addressed the physicality and rim protection. I think the rebounding, the versatility. I really like what he's doing. I like where it's headed under Sean Miller at Texas. You still got to go get it done. But like I said, Jeff, he got to Texas at a pretty interesting time because there's some things in state that could work for him that makes his build really nice quickly.
Yeah, and I'll add this too, Jerry. I looked at it from a baseball standpoint with Schloss, and I think the time he spent at A&M made him a better fit for the Texas job because going from TCU to A&M, the dynamics of a private school going to a big state school are completely different, and how you manage those. Sean Miller's already done that at Arizona. It's a big state school. Plus, that's a program where, Jerry, we've seen them win a national championship. We've seen them go to Final Fours. So Sean Miller's done it at that level. A coach that can maximize the resources of a big state school like Texas and the Texas brand, that's where you're going with the international recruiting. I love the fact that Sean Miller's saying, hey, Texas offers all this. Let's go make the most of it.
A couple of things to add on to that, Jeff. I think it's a great point. Is he had never been in the Moody Center before he was hired. I was standing outside the facility the first time he went in, and I think even though it's really good, I think he walked in there was kind of like, wow, this is what I'm working with. The Moody practice facility, the Moody Center. This is what I'm working with. The strength and conditioning coach is like, this is what we're working with. This is a pretty good spot to be, to your point, Jeff. And I mean, because it's pretty much an NBA arena. It's an NBA practice facility, NBA level arena, not size, level arena. And Sean Miller, Arizona was a great program to recruit to when he was there. And I think Texas is a great program to recruit to now when he arrived, especially with the move to the SEC. You're in the dominant conference. We'll see year in, year out, right? The ACC and Big East and Big 12 are going to have something to say about that. But he's getting here at the right time. I mean, you have national champions, multiple Final Four teams. This is a really easy sell. And he's got a lot of things. He's got a lot of wind behind his sails that give him the opportunity to go get this thing done.
Jerry, real quick before we get out of here, the staff got officially announced last week. Kenya Hunter, Uric Malagy, who you mentioned is back at Texas, was on Chris Beard's initial staff. Adam Cohen, David Miller, and Ryan Anderson are your 5 assistant coaches. Chris Ogden, we know, is the general manager. Andy Kettler as the strength conditioning coach, and then Ryan Reynolds is going to be the chief of staff for men's basketball. Jerry, just your quick thoughts on the makeup of this coaching staff.
Adam Cohen's a rising star. I don't know how long he'll be here if they have success early on in year one, make a tournament, win a game type of scenario. I think he's going to be on a short list to be a head coach in college basketball. I think he's a rising star. I think keeping Chris Ogden, I think, was very intelligent by Sean Miller. He knows the inner workings of the University of Texas. I didn't look at the Texas roster last year and think that was an issue. I mean, they had talent, right? And he knows the inner workings. He has great relationships with the right people. Texas One Fund, the Bill Duvals, the guys that are around this program. Chris Ogden's years of invested, knows this roster, knew the guys that Sean Miller had interest in bringing back. So I thought that was a very smart hire. Ryan Anderson, I think, is going to be underrated and not talked about enough. I think he's a really good player development guy, and Sean Miller is a big player development guy as well. I know all of them are, but that's really going to be a staple that's talked about with Texas basketball. And I think Ryan Anderson is not going to be talked about enough in that regard. Again, Uric Malagy worked with Augie a little bit, knows the lay of the land, knows recruiting in DFW especially, and in the state of Texas. So Hunter has years of experience. I really liked what he's done with the staff. Again, player development. You're going to see and listen to him harp on that. So I think that Ryan Anderson hire is going to be underrated because I think he's really good there. But Adam Cohen, rising star amongst assistant coaches. I don't know how long he'll be here.
All right, Jerry, thank you for the hardwood expertise as always. Thanks to Matthew behind the scenes for making it happen. Thanks to Advanced Pain Care, our sponsor for this edition of On Texas Basketball. Don't forget to get over to Instagram. the On Texas Basketball Instagram account. We've got graphics, roster updates, everything you need over there. That's at On Texas Basketball. Also, don't forget to get over to On Texas Football. If you're not a member at On Texas Football, sign up right now using the promo code OTFOG. That'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $49.95. Again, the promo code is OTFOG. For Gerry Hamilton, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you for watching, and until next time, hook 'em.